Well, howdy folks, my name's Philip, this is Turtle Studios, and this is a bass guitar. And it's my sort of opinion that if you're sort of early on in your guitar playing, guitar collecting journey, or maybe you're not, and you don't own a bass guitar, but let's say you've got a couple instruments, to cover the spectrum, a couple different shaped electrics, different styles, maybe an acoustic or two in the mix, plenty of different effects. A bass is potentially a really good option as your next instrument, and let me explain why. First and foremost is you already know how to play the bass. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you're going to be an expert bass player. There's definitely value in those that practice and study and really learn the bass. But there's going to be very little learning curve when you take your bass out of the box. It's just the first 4 strings of your guitar tuned an octave lower. Yes, the neck is a little bit longer and the strings are a little bit heavier, but for the most part, you're going to be able to play it right away. Next is that it's going to expand your musical perspective. Maybe you haven't listened for bass in songs before or really picked it out, and now that you have a bass, you might start doing so. There are a lot of really sweet bass riffs out there that you can learn to play, and you might start to appreciate some of those now that you own a bass. In general, all the accessories you have will work with your bass as well. Now, the one caveat to this is your guitar amp. If you play it at lower volumes, you're probably fine, but you definitely don't want to crank it at high volumes. This can damage your amplifier. The next point is that there just are a lot of really cool bass parts to learn, and now that you own a bass, you can do that. If you plan on doing any recording at home, a bass is going to be an invaluable tool for you to have. Yes, there are plenty of plugins out there that can do it and sound pretty convincing, but there's still nothing quite like playing a bass grooving in the pocket to a track or a song. Bass is also just a really fun instrument to play in general. It's a really accessible instrument to just jam along to tracks with and groove with. If you look up jam tracks on YouTube or just jam along to the music you listen to normally, it's a really fun instrument to be able to do that with. And it's just a cool instrument in general. Next is that bass players are generally in more demand than guitar players. So if you're looking for gigs, now that you own a bass, you potentially have more options available to you. Back when I was in my high school days, that's how I joined my first band, is because I was the only guy who owned a bass, and they needed a bass player. Learning and playing bass will also just make you a better musician as a whole. It will probably improve your guitar playing as well. Once you start to learn and listen for the bass, you're going to start to understand the tonal differences and the different roles they play within the mix of a song. Frequency-wise, they have different spots they fall into. When you're playing at home, a huge, luscious guitar tone sounds great, but when you're playing with a band, carving out a little bit of that low end to make room for the bass is going to make for a more impactful mix. Also, now that you own a bass, there's going to be some things that you can do that you couldn't necessarily do on a guitar before. There's something about triad chords that are just hauntingly beautiful in a way that doesn't really feel the same on a guitar. But anyways, those are my reasons as to why I think a bass could be your next guitar. This particular bass was provided to me by Stritch. They've provided a couple different things for me in the past, like stands and straps and cables and other accessories. And they're really a pretty cool brand. They're definitely very affordable. And this bass I got for them is pretty impressive out of the box. It's definitely more on the budget end of the spectrum, but it has no issues with the frets out of the box. All the tuners work. There's no issues with the electronics. And it could potentially be a great option for a starter bass if that's something you're looking for as well. So huge thanks to Stritch for sending this out, and stay tuned for more guitar content.